Hey everyone, guess we'll go ahead and start. It's about 4 o'clock my time. And I don't think that I'm going to open this particular hangout up. I don't know yet. If that's the case, then I'll give people a link if they really want the link. But as of right now, I don't think that I am. I think I just want to kind of explain what's going to go on a little bit and kind of get your guys' opinion on things and then go from there. I can't do this for very long. I know I say that a lot, and then we go on for several hours and maybe even days. But we do have a show tonight to do. It is going to be on Flat Earth again on Non Sequitur Show. We have Flat Out Hero and I don't know, somebody else. Doesn't really matter at this point. Some Flat Earth dude. So go check that out. That'll be at 6 o'clock Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern. But anyways, for this particular discussion, what happened real briefly the other day, I had a little encounter, I guess, with Matt Dillahunty, and that in his title here is kind of more clickbait than anything else, because I don't want to go into too much detail on it, because I don't know what Matt's argument actually is, or counter argument. He's very curt, I should say, in the what the word is that? He's very curt in his responses, so I'm not quite sure what his actual argument against what I've been saying is. So I don't want to like really say, well, Matt's saying this or Matt's saying that. I don't know. I really don't. Other people looked at it and said, yeah, we're not quite sure what he's arguing against either. Everything I've said in that tweet, or those tweets, as far as I know, are factually correct. And that's all I'm going for, right? I just want to be sure that what I put out there is correct, because I have brought out the point that that simple classical logic isn't really the best way to look at beliefs. Sometimes loses some fine granularity of the nuances of what we actually believe. And yeah, you can pigeonhole and shoehorn just about anything into a bivalence classical system, meaning, P or not P. But do we really want to do that? And I argue that in some cases, the better way to talk about beliefs is using either dosastic, fuzzy, or even multi-valued logic. And by the way, no, ad homs is canceled tonight. People in the live chat. So Kyle won't be doing ad homs tonight. Or ad homies. Yeah, that's what it is. Ad homies. So I was bringing up the point to somebody that I see a specific case where I think having a multi-valued logic system would work better for evaluating a proposition, such that in classical logic, you have the law of excluded middle, which basically just says that a proposition can either be true or false. Okay, we all kind of know that. But in a multi-valued system, you can have P equals true, P equals false, or P equals unknown, right? So you have three states that you can actually assign as a value. And since we don't know about people's beliefs, sometimes it's hard to say what is true or false. If I said, hey, Brian G likes blondes over the brunettes, is that a true or false statement? Well, I don't know what Brian G likes. I know he likes girls because, don't we all? Well, most of us. But I don't know what his state of mind is on that. I don't know how to answer that question, true or false. So in a multi-valued system, I'm actually allowed to say it's unknown, right? It's false. See, now I know, though. Now my brain state has changed. He's told me it's false. So I would change the U to an F, but the multi-valued system allows me to do that. But anyways, that's kind of a long way segue to get to the point where I really want to talk about, because I think Matt took an issue with that and just saying, well, it's really not about that. It's about either you believe or you don't believe, right? That's what he distills it all down to. And it's not necessarily wrong in classical system, right? I mean, that's what it is. Either you believe or you don't believe. There's only two states that you can have. Either it is the case that you believe, or it is the case that you not believe. That is the problem with the principle of bivalence in this kind of system, where you only have two states you can choose from. So I had been thinking about this, and had been reading some papers on this, and I thought, well, is there a case where you may not have to abide by that, right? If you guys remember, I wrote a blog piece the other day of an example of a married bachelor, right? Because that's one of the greatest canards out there, right? All unmarried men are bachelors, and that is true, except when it's not true, by using other forms of logic. And I used an example using what's called paraconsistent logic, or dialetheism, which is a type of logics where you can have a true contradiction without principle of explosion. And that's just a fancy way of saying I can have a contradiction without having the ship blow up, where you can prove anything. Because the principle of explosion is basically, if you can prove a contradiction or have contradictions, then you can literally prove anything you want. And so that's why you don't have contradictions in a classical system. But there are times where you can have logical contradictions that make sense to have contradictions, and they're called true contradictions. And pair-consistent logic allows for that. And I give an example of when you can have a married bachelor using that. And it's not my creative example. It actually came right out of Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. I just took it and ran with it and simplified it, right? So it was kind of like my argument, but using some else's actual example. But same thing I kind of did here. So I actually have a link in the video description to my blog that a piece that I wrote last night. It's called Breaking Beliefs. Can you believe and not believe at the same time? And I will tell you, it's not an easy read. Ozzy thought it was interesting. Dave S. didn't see any problem with the reasoning. He didn't check the logic, but he thought the reasoning was sound. And this, it's kind of like Moore's paradox, if you guys are familiar with that, but it's not. Moore's paradox is a very specific example of this case where a person believes and believes that they do not believe, right? So the logic is basically an existential quantifier of a backwards E, P, colon, believes P and believes not, believes not believes P. Okay, so it basically is saying that a person who believes something to be the case, but at the same time believes that they don't believe that it's the case. It's called Moore's paradox, or a peculiar reasoner in doxastic logic. There's another logic I think is very versatile for beliefs that I don't know very well that I should, but it's kind of similar to that. So there are situations where it's not as cut and dry as people make it out to be. And I know Matt and a lot of other atheists really like to make things very, very, very simplistic. And it's not always the case. Beliefs are messy. They're really not as straightforward as you would think, especially when it comes to even involving things like knowledge. People are aware of the Gettier problems when it comes to justified true belief. And it extends way beyond that. I mean, I've been reading papers on counter examples of Gettier and examples of maybe where you can have belief, you can have knowledge without entailing belief, right? That's called, there's a thing called an entailment thesis that says that knowledge entails belief, which makes sense to anybody who knows that belief is a subset of knowledge, right? There's these conditions for knowledge that say that to have knowledge, the proposition has to be true, the subject has to believe the proposition, and the subject has to be justified, or some other condition by which to make it the case to be knowledge, right? Those conditions are standard. Everybody knows that usually you have 3 or 4 conditions for knowledge. Not a big deal, but there are some variations of people out there with really good, I think, examples, although I think they're feasible, of conditions where you may have belief, or excuse me, you may have knowledge without belief, and that would actually be a case of knowledge without belief. But that's not what we're talking about when it comes to the conditions for epistemological knowledge, as far as what is the conditions to have knowledge. And in one of those conditions, it is you have to believe. So in this particular example that I use, and like I said, this is not an easy read. I'm kind of just going to kind of touch on a little bit, and then I want you guys later on to go through this blog and maybe explain why you think that this is not the case. And yeah, Sean, I'm going to get you a link in a few here after I do all this, and then if you want to like come in and throw darts at it, that's completely fine. So I basically start off with this blog piece explaining that Matt is correct on the fact that in classical logic, either you believe or you don't believe it. And the way I write that is basically BAP, V, not BAP. And that's just a fancy way of saying the agent believes the P proposition is true, or the agent believes the proposition is not true. I should actually have a legend for these symbols. I know I do it on Twitter, but I haven't done it on my blog, except for my little primer that I had that explained basically some of them. But I do explain what they mean in the blog, so I don't really need an actual legend. But I explain what they actually mean. And then I go into a state where a person, in theory, I mean, I'm not saying this is a completely ontologically sound thing. It is plausible, okay? But that's neither here nor there. It's plausible, but the point is it's not logically impossible. And what I show is that there is a case where it is logically not impossible to have an agent say that they believe P is true and does not believe true at the same time. And that's really just because of the way of 2 things. One, linguistically, how we approach things. Sometimes when we say that We don't believe something to be true. We actually infer that we mean it to be false, although that's not necessarily the case, right? I mean, if I say I don't believe it's even, it doesn't entail that I believe that's odd, right? But linguistically, you doing a weak inference, there's a case will be made where people do that, right? They say, well, you don't believe in God, which means that you believe gods don't exist, which we know isn't necessarily the case. We know that people that don't believe in God, there are people out there that don't believe in either that gods exist or gods don't exist, such as agnostics and weak atheists. But that's a linguistic case where it's a weak inference. And the other case would be where the agent believes that the proposition is false. It does imply that the proposition isn't true. And so I use these different examples, and a lot of this I draw from a paper that is by D.M. Armstrong in 1969 and a couple other papers, but I didn't cite those because it wasn't really those heavy of a reference. I didn't really reference them. I just used them in the back of my mind to formulate this argument. And one thing about these arguments people seem to like is they're unique. Well, you know what? I don't even know if they're unique. The other people have done similar things, I think, but I just do it in a more explicit way. My last argument that I did, still getting us some traction, a lot of it actually. And that was the argument that atheists have a burden of proof, all of them, including a lack of belief atheist or an atheist that just does not believe there's a God. And that particular argument, I've now been on the Canadian Atheist podcast. I've been on the Atheist Community of Austin's Discord talking about it. I've been on Fully Deconverted talking about it. I've been on Cyrus's channel talking about it. It's a good argument. Even my biggest distractors have gotten away. Mostly have said, yeah, you know what? The logic is definitely valid. And, you know, I think that it is sound. They don't seem to have a problem with it after it's been explained to them 10,000 times. And that's the hallmark of a good argument. Now, again, arguments in philosophy, there is honestly no real right or wrong with most of them, right? It's either you accept the premises or you don't. You know, there's nothing ontologically we can use to measure or gauge whether an argument is completely the case or not, a rational argument. It's hard to do that. It's not a science, right? And so if most people are going away saying, hey, this is legit, or this sounds reasonable, including multiple amount of PhDs, then I'll take that as a sound argument, or at least take it as a very good argument, something that is convincing, because it's convinced them, right? I mean, it seems to be the case that if I have an argument that is convincing people with actual PhDs in epistemology and philosophy and other things like that, that clearly is a convincing argument then, right? Because convince them. I think it's self-evident that that's the case. Does that mean it is, you know, the way it is? Well, again, this is philosophy. You can argue anything you want, but the fact that my argument is being convincing people and the counter arguments are not convincing people. I mean, so far, very few holdouts, very, very few. And so that to me is a sign of a good argument. And one thing about them, whether you think they're good arguments or not, they're novel arguments. They're new in some ways, right? And yes, all arguments are derivative in some respects, clearly, right? We all draw on the shoulders of giants. But when you have a new approach to something or a better way to explain something, that's novel. Because come on, we've all been around a long while. We've seen the same shit day in and day out. So my blog and my approach to these types of arguments, I think, are just a little bit different, a little bit more novel, and gives some people something to talk about, right? So if people are talking about it, I've already done my job, right? I've already done something that I set out to do. My job is to get people to talk about things. And yeah, maybe some of my arguments might be shit sometimes, right? Who knows, right? I mean, not everybody can have great arguments all the time. Even the best philosophers get shit wrong, or they argue on the wrong side of things, right? Most of philosophy is one group arguing one thing and one group arguing the opposite position. Some people are realists, some people are idealists, right? Some people are objectivists, some people are subjectivists, you know. So there's no right or wrong answers. Which one's more convincing? These arguments I found are convincing because people are being convinced by them. Now, even if they weren't convincing, does that mean they're bad arguments? No, not necessarily. There's some arguments that are just either too technical, or just some people just don't understand them. Doesn't mean they're bad arguments. So a lot of times when people say, well, Steve, I don't understand your argument, therefore it's wrong, that makes no sense to me. They can say, I don't understand your argument, therefore I'm not going to weigh in on it. Sure. But like Matt clearly said, you know, in one tweet that I was wrong about something, but he didn't give any expository of what I was wrong about. That's a little disconcerting. If people are going to say I'm wrong, I need the details, because if I don't have the details, one, I can't correct anything if I am wrong, and two, I can't give a rejoinder what I think would be the case of them maybe making a mistake or not understanding the argument properly. So you can't have a dialogue or communication if all you say to somebody is you're wrong. Same reasoning I have, it makes no sense to go into a dialectic saying, oh, I just don't believe you, right? Which some atheists do. Either way, they don't get you anywhere. Yeah, well, Matt said he would discuss it initially on non sequitur, but then I was told that I might be not giving him principle of charity, and that he might not have the time to read all my posts, and maybe he just kind of started in the middle. And I kind of pointed that out to him. I wanted to give him more principle of charity, and that he might have not read the all the post, and he took that offensively, and he said it was during the situation when no offense was meant. Um, I don't know what somebody reads or don't read when they only really write something like, but you're wrong, or no, right? That doesn't tell me anything. So I don't even know if they've read any of the prior stuff and addressing exactly what I'm actually talking about. I don't like to think that Matt was dismissing me. I don't think that's the case. Hopefully not. I don't feel like I'm in a position to be dismissed when I actually make reasoned argumentation that people do take notice to. But anyways, so I'm going to allow a couple people to come in if they want. I'm going to get the link to Sean here, but go ahead on your own time. Check out the blog that I wrote on the piece about can you believe or not believe at the same time. And again, put aside your knee-jerk reactions and just go by what I actually wrote, because sometimes people read what I say and they have a knee-jerk reaction, but then they go, God damn, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I thought about it, and yeah, he makes sense. So there might be flaws in this, and I haven't double checked the logic. I had Dave S. read it. He said it was reasonable, but he didn't check the logic. Ozzy said it was interesting, but I'm sure he didn't have time to check the logic. And anytime you're using logical symbols, right, you can mess up, right? I think I've been pretty correct on them. Some of the symbols may not translate right. Like I have one with an arrow with a line through it. It doesn't look right on the blog. It has an arrow with a line after it, but I think people can infer that it means does not entail. Or I can change it if it means to a symbol that actually means does not entail. But if you look at the symbology, I think you can infer what I mean by it. If I say something like arrow slash, which is actually supposed to be in the middle of the arrow, doesn't apply, doesn't entail. So let me get Sean the link real quick. Sean, I'm going to give the link directly through Facebook, and hopefully your iPhone can handle it. So give me 1 second here. Has anybody read this blog yet, Peace? Just out of curiosity. Okay, I gave you the Hangout link. Does anybody even know I have a blog? Does anybody know who I am? Why am I here? Tyler says your blog post boils down to people can't have contradictory beliefs. Yeah, basically. Yeah, in a nutshell. Because people can have contradictory beliefs, it can actually be the case where you can believe and not believe at the same time. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff can be reduced down to a lot of simplicity. Not fronting on that. The same thing with my piece on Married Bachelor, right? I mean, that's pretty simplistic if you just accept that you can have a logical contradiction. That is true, right? If you accept that you can use a different form of logic called pair-consistent logic, then yeah, it's a straightforward argument. Well, yeah. Tyler says that's an observation. What are you arguing? I'm arguing that the statement that you either believe or don't believe is always the case to not necessarily be true, because there are counterexamples using non-classical logic where that doesn't hold true, right? So you have to have that caveat. In classical logic, that holds true, right? Now, we all pretty much assume classical logic most of the time. But if you go back and read the tweets, I'm clearly not talking about classical logic. I mentioned fuzzy logic. I mentioned multi-value logic. I mentioned dosastic logic. And Matt just says, well, none of these things matter. It's this way. And so I'm arguing, no, it's not that way using other forms of logic. And I give an example. That's all. So let's see if he came in here. Nope, not yet. Sean, you able to get the link? And I do like breaking stuff. I like these situations where things that people think are cut and dry may not necessarily be so cut and dry, right? I like giving counter examples of different situations where things may not always be the case, because I think people reduce things down too simplistically, and they say things as always to be the case when it's clearly not always the case, and they're very loose in their language in that regard. Oh yeah, I'm the new agnostic pope. That's the first thing that I think triggered Matt was somebody called Matt the Pope of Atheism and me the Pope of Agnosticism, and Matt says there's no Pope of Atheism, and I'm like, well, Matt, you have accepted that title before in jest. It's all in fun, right? And I'm like, unlike Matt, I humbly accept the title of Pope of Agnosticism. So yes. Um, Sean says an error. Yeah, iPhones have a hard time with Hangouts. I don't know. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Um, but again, I don't know what Matt's actual positions are when it comes to what I write. I don't know what his objection is. Um, he does assume. I know this. He assumes agnosticism under atheism. Um, right. If you don't believe, that's an atheist to Matt. That's what he's always said. If you lack of belief in God, well, he doesn't like the term lack of belief in God because he thinks just missing something. But he says if you don't have a belief in God, you're an atheist. Well, in his paradigm, using very loose definitions, then yeah, but I don't use those definitions. I use strict definitions, and so in my structured, yeah, then I'm not an atheist, and neither is agnostic. So there's a distinction there, huge. Um, but yeah, you might want to check out some other things that I wrote too. I wrote like how to attack an argument. Start by don't being an idiot. That was one of my blog pieces. Um, I said the only thing we can safely say about babies and rocks is they're non-theists. Yeah, there's still people out there arguing babies are atheist. I just and rocks are atheists. We call them rock atheists now on Twitter. That's the new thing. Let's see here. Oh, I do have one called Agnosticism, Atheism, Theism, and Logic 101. Well, I just have a really short breakdown of some of these terminologies. But I wrote this one the other day at Denny's that you might like. I wrote it actually having my free meal for Veterans Day. And it's called Metaethics, Normative or Applied, Why It Matters and Why It Doesn't. And you know what? If anybody reads any of my blogs post, read that one because I make a case for why the hell do we give a shit whether things are objective or subjective. I don't care, to be honest with you. I rather care a shit about what you do in a given situation. I want to know your normative ethics or your applied ethics more than your meta ethics, right? It's fascinating, meta ethics. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I do read about meta ethics and I read about meta epistemology, but I don't care what your meta ethics is as far as what you're going to do in a given situation. What is your morality? You know, do you think it's moral to steal from your employer? That's not meta ethics. That's normative, right? You can argue to the cows come home whether that is a moral fact that is subjective or objective not to steal, but that's irrelevant to me in the big picture, you know? So while we're waiting for him to get in here, people that have read this, if they have any questions, if not, let's see what we got in here in live chat. Rayleigh says a rock is non-theist. Yeah, I mean that's just basically set theory, right? I mean you have theism, and anything that's not in the set of theism has to be in the set of non-theism, right? You don't have to have a belief to be a non-theist. The only condition to be a non-theist is that you aren't in the set of theism, right? So it's pretty simplistic. Hi, Christy. Christy's in the live chat and probably blew your ears off on that one, but I got excited. I'm sorry. She excites me. And no, not in that way. Well, okay, a little bit in that way, but I'm not going to say that on air. But Christy, we love you. You're fantastic. We definitely are going to get you on Non Sequitur show for you to do a 20-minute presentation. That might be the episode that breaks the internet because I know that's going to be a very popular episode. We got to make Christy famous. That's the goal. So let's see here. Bergaza says, why an atheist would have to justify it to anyone. Well, my other argument, if people read it, is why they have to justify it to themselves, not so much anybody else. And I also wrote one the other day called "Not All Justifications Are the Same," and I think I was trying to go have an example of a justification that meets the condition for justified true belief, or at least justified belief, but not necessarily knowledge, right? There are some arguments to be had that you can have knowledge, that you can have justified belief, but it not constitute knowledge. And so I think there's a distinction between justified belief and knowledge, but some people argue that they're the same thing. So I think that was what I was going for there on that blog piece. Tyler says, I posted an important question on one of the billion posts about the definition of atheism that is yet to be answered. What's the question? Yeah, I can't go through all my stuff anymore like I used to. I try. It's just impossible. I wake up with 1,000 notifications from Twitter, and that's not hyperbole. I have well over 1,000 notifications. Now, most of them are not directly to me, right? I mean, but I still have to sift through them all. And I have obviously email and G Plus and Twitter and Facebook, and I'm sure I missed a vast majority of messages that are directed my way. Oh, the question is right below the sentence you read. When it comes to justification for someone's atheism, how are they supposed to justify it? How are they supposed to be justifying it to? What do you mean? They justify it to themselves. Why am I an atheist? There you go. The justification, the burden of justification is not to somebody else. The burden they have is why they have a lack of belief. That's all. Why don't they find the arguments convincing? That's it. You don't have to justify that to anybody else. Unless you're in a persuasive argument, right? If you're in a dialectic and two people are having a conversation and somebody says, here's my evidence, and you say, well, I don't believe you, then yeah, I think you do have an onus to tell them why you don't believe them. You need to justify why you don't believe them. If not, you're just being a dick, right? But I mean, I think the onus comes from a duty, from strictly discussionary point of view, right? Because if you're going to discuss something with somebody and you want to have a argument that isn't futile, you want to have a fruitful one, then you both need to have some kind of burden. You both need to have a discussion. You both need to give reasons for your positions, even if your reasoning is that the other person has not given you any evidence that you can evaluate. That's a reason. But I find a lot of times that atheists will say, well, you haven't given any evidence, when the theist has given evidence. The theist has given a rational argument as positing it as evidence. And the atheists just dismiss that because they think, for some strange reason, that evidence has to be empirical or from empiricism. That's not the case. A rational argument from rationalism is evidence, right? I mean, a deductive argument is evidence, right? So you mean we have no physical evidence aliens exist, but there are really good rational arguments why we think aliens exist, right? A mathematical thing like the Drake equation is not physical evidence, right? Even if you don't even have to use that either. There are other things that can support it, but you don't have to have physical evidence or empiricism to have evidence. That's simply not true. That's the case. So Berganza says atheism is not a belief. Well, it is a belief in philosophy. So I'm talking about from philosophical point of view. In philosophy, in the academic literature, anything you go read, pretty much, if you're going to read a peer-reviewed paper, atheism is the belief that there are no gods. So if you want to read the papers correctly, that's how you pretty much need to understand what that word means in philosophy. Let's see here. Okay, so anybody else got some questions? And by the way, yeah, Braganza, you used the teapot over Jupiter thing. Russell's argument, it's kind of fallacious in some ways. It's kind of, in my opinion, a straw man argument of what the theist is positing. A good refutation of Russell's paper on the teapot argument is by a guy named Brian Garvey. He wrote it in 2010. I don't remember the name of the paper off the top of my head, but just look up Brian Garvey 2010 teapot and you'll be able to find it. It's a really good paper, actually. And so, yeah, you got to be up on the literature if you're just going to throw things out there like that. All right. So last minute questions. Like I said, I wasn't going to keep this one very long. Sean can't come in he's on a iPhone, even though I've given him the link. Unless somebody else wants to come in, let me know now. I'll give you the link. I'll do it for another half hour at most, but hopefully like maybe 10 minutes. Oh, Bagaza wants to come in. Oh, I'm not sure I know who Bergaza is, but sure. You want to email me, Bergaza? It's Steve ask anything at gmail.com, and I'll put it in the live chat too. I have a challenger. Yay! iPhone proves there's no God. You sound like Red's rhetoric. He says the same thing, I think. Tyler says, do you preemptively inform the people you're talking to about having a discussion about philosophical context? 90% of the time. If not, they'll figure it out. I can't do it every single time. I have 1,000 videos, man. If people don't know by now, I mean, it's nothing that I mean, I don't have an onus to tell people I'm talking about things philosophically speaking. There's no onus upon me to do that. So, oh, regardless says I didn't ask to come. Never mind. Okay, I thought you wanted in. Oh, okay. He said he'd check out the teapot thing. Okay, my bad. I misunderstood. Well, if anybody else, there's the email. If you want to send it to me, I'll give you the link. Like I said, I'm checking my email right now. Yeah, that's the right link. Let me see if I can write you internally. Let me try one other thing real quick. Oh, it doesn't have you on Gmail or G plus. John, please scroll up to my comment. Scrolling up. Steve, an argument is not evidence of anything but opinion of a hypothesis. No, that's completely bullshit. Absolute bullshit. An argument is a form of evidential things where you're evaluating something to be the case. An argument is your evidence you're pointing forth to say this is the case ontologically speaking, or whatever it is you're arguing. So yes, that's evidence. Go look at what evidence is. Evidence is anything to be evaluated in an argument. I'm not talking about scientific evidence. Scientific evidence is evidence that anything that changes the likelihood of a hypothesis being true. Okay, so don't equivocate the words, how I'm using them. But if a theist posits a rational argument, like let's say like Aquinas is 5 ways, he's positing those as evidence. So you don't have to accept them as such. You can say they're bad arguments, but you need to give reason why, right? I've gone through and I've showed why a lot of those arguments are not good arguments, right? I did I don't know, an hour or 2 hour hangout on why the argument from contingency, even if you accept it is valid and the premises is sound, it's not a convincing argument. But you can't just say, oh, that's not evidence. That's absurd. Is it reasonable for people to default to colloquial definitions unless the context of a conversation is specified? I don't give a shit. Yeah, no, it's not unreasonable, but I don't care. I'm not here to cater to any specific people, Tyler. I don't cater to the lack theists. I don't cater to the people that believe it's the case that atheism is the belief that gods don't exist. I do my thing. That's it. I don't cater to any specific people. I don't go out of my way to say, oh, look, I'm using a philosophical definition every fucking time. Not worth my time. If people can't understand that, fine. But no, I don't do that, Tyler, and I never will, because that means that I have to, that to me means that I have to specifically go out of my way to put forth something that's self-evident in philosophy. And that's not my thing, right? If people want to have a mindset that atheism is lack of belief, they're welcome to do that. But that's their own deal. That's their own baggage they bring to the table. That's their own preconceived notion. I don't care, right? So, well, this is my conversational etiquette. So I think that's it. I mean, take it or leave it. I even put a tweet out the other day. I even said something along the lines of, you know, if here's the dilemma on Twitter, right? If you're too simple, people don't take you seriously. If you're too complicated, they think what you write is word salad. Too imprecise, somebody will exploit it. And too precise, you're a pendant. And I said, I just write what I think to cater to no one. I just do my shtick, right? That is my etiquette. People can figure it out as they go. I really am not going to go out of my way to say every goddamn time, oh, look, I'm using the philosophical definition of atheism. When I say the word atheism, people know by now that I mean the belief that gods don't exist, period. If they don't, then they'll catch up. Simple as that. See, Christy gets it, and I'm here to cater to Christy a little bit. So as long as Christy understands it, I am happy as happy can be, because I'd much rather satisfy Christy than some of you other people. And I did not mean that in the way that you people think I meant it. You dirty freaking minded people. And Brian G, God, I'm going to say this too, but I want to satisfy him too. And that definitely is not the way you people think it means. Okay. The Christian atheist says you either believe or you know. No, that is not the case. If you know, you actually believe. So one of the conditions for knowledge is that you believe, right? Because knowledge is a subset of belief. Does that make sense? Yeah. There's a excuse me. There's something called a conjunctive analysis, right? And what a conjunctive analysis is basically generally 3 conditions. Although I've seen some that are 4 conditional, but the 3 conditions for a conjunctive analysis of knowledge, the analysis of knowledge would be that one believes P to be true, P is true, and there's some other condition attached with it, whether it be a justificatory condition or reliably produce true belief. So that's the differentiation between something saying knowledge may be a case where you don't have belief, as opposed to a case where you're using that conjunctive analysis, where it is always the case where you have to have some kind of justification or third party condition. And one of the conditions is also that you believe P is true. Not related to conjunctivitis. No less. So John says, when you're saying an argument is evidence, you don't mean it's proof of anything. Well, yeah, it is proof. I mean, I could write a logical proof. That's what it is. It's proof, right? I mean, if I write a deductive argument using a logical proof, using a rule of inference, that's evidence using a proof, right? I mean, I could write a proof saying that the square root of 2 is irrational. That's a proof. That is evidence that it is the square root of 2 is irrational. I can write numerous proofs. 0.99 repeating equals 1, as people know. Guess what? That is evidence that 0.99 repeating is equal to 1. So there's nothing physical there. There's no empirical thing empiricism there that you can actually touch, right? There's nothing sensory there. That's completely, rational argument. So yes, a mathematical proof or any kind of logical proof or anything positive as a rational argument is evidence to be evaluated. Aaron says we do have empirical evidence of aliens, biology and astronomy. I don't think so. I don't think that we have empirical evidence of aliens. I think that we can make an deductive inference, but I don't think we can actually say we have evidence of aliens. I think that it would only be through an inference, through rationalism, not evidentialism. Maybe. I'm happy to hear arguments on that particular point. But Rayleigh says, doesn't a proof need evidence, like a valid logical argument not be sound? Well, yeah, you can have a valid argument that's not sound, but that's not evidence. I mean, if you accept that the premises are sound, then the next thing you go to, is it convincing? Because you can have a logically valid and sound argument that's not convincing, such as the case like the argument from contingency. I argue that it's valid, and I don't think it's sound, but assuming that it's sound, it still is not a convincing argument because it doesn't actually satisfy the principle of sufficient reason, which it purports to do. And so it doesn't even argue what it's supposed to be arguing. Oh boy, this is going by fast. I didn't realize how many people we have watching so early in the afternoon. So I should have put it on slow mode. I'm sorry. Atheist arguments are justifications for their belief, not proof. Well, yeah, sure. I would agree with Brian on that. It's not proof of God. No, you don't prove God exists or prove God does not exist one way or another. You argue God exists, or you can argue God does not exist. That's not provable either way, right? First of all, science doesn't prove anything. And second of all, whenever you start dealing with existential things, there's a whole bunch of issues that you run into. You run into what's called the fallacy of existential fallacy. You run into the problem with what's called existential import. Yeah, it's a mess when you start dealing with things existing or not. So let's see here. Oh boy, like I said, I didn't realize this was going to be so talked about in the live chat. The confusion is between philosophy and scientific proof. Yeah, because there is no such thing as scientific proof. To me, that's a non sequitur. Dun-dun-dun. Because what is scientific proof? It's nonsensical to me. Now, I understand scientists use that terminology in colloquial loose speak, but if you really thought about it, what does it mean to have scientific proof? Science doesn't prove anything. It explains. Everything in science is tentative, right? All facts are tentative and provisional in science, right? There's no absolute truth. As a matter of fact, truth is critical in science, but facts are probably on the lowest part of the rung if we wanted to rank things, right? So if we had to rank things of importance, I would rank it as facts, then hypotheses, then theories. Theories are far more powerful and far more important to science than facts, because facts are ubiquitous. There are a dime a dozen. There's trillions and infinite amount of facts. Theories explain facts, and that's the critical thing with what science does. So science doesn't really care about facts per se. What science cares about how to explain those facts. I hope people understand the distinction there. Because I had some idiot a long time ago say, "Oh, look, Steve doesn't care about facts." No, if you caught that from what I just said, then you probably should be watching something else, because not a not a person understand basic things. Aaron says scientific proof is a proof beyond reasonable doubt. No such thing, Aaron. There's no such thing as a scientific proof, and there's no such thing beyond a reasonable doubt. Um, in science, I mean that's legalese, not sciencese. John says now you sound like a solipsist. No, I'm not a solipsist. Well, I'm a soft solipsist, but I think most people are soft solipsist, right? I mean, I think most of us agree that we exist, but we can never be certain that other minds exist. We accept it, right? We accept it on, well, we have no other choice because we exist and we have to deal with people. So I have to accept axiomatically that Christie exists. Plus, I want to. So that makes me a soft solipsist because I can't ever confirm with any kind of epistemic certainty that Christie is Christie. You know. Now that's completely different from hard solipsism, though. Hard solipsism saying I'm the only one that exists. I'm the only mind that exists. And by the way, if hard solipsism is true, there can be only one, and that one is me. Or it could be Christie. I'm only she's gonna be the exception to that because if I'm in her mind, I'm cool with that. Let's see here. Christie existence. Christistus. That's a cool word, Gage. Have you been drinking coffee, Steve? No, I have not had my coffee today. Believe it or not, I'm all natural at the moment. No coffee, no stimulant. I will be having coffee soon because we are doing the non sequitur show shortly, and I'm gonna need all the coffee I can get to have the discussion between Flat Out Hero and who's the Flat Earther, guys. I don't even see how much I really care about Flat Earth any longer. These guys are just a dime a dozen. And yes, I know Logan, what's his fucking name, became a Flat Earther. And I think it's all publicity stunt anyways. And I don't watch him anyways. I think he's a complete asshole. I think he's an idiot. And I don't know how he even has any fans. Oh, yeah. They're all teeny boppers. They don't know any better. Yeah. Mind of God. The Mind of God. That's the person who's going to be having a Flat Earth discussion tonight. Wow. Oh, Christy's so sweet. See, this is why she's one of my favorite fans. Now you understand why. I mean, everything I do, I have to sit back and go, okay, what is it the things that make me most happiest about being a YouTuber? Oh yeah, Christy likes my shit. That's it. So yeah, by the way, I don't know anything about this Mind of God. I haven't talked to them. I haven't watched anything of them. This was arranged strictly by Kyle. Kyle gets guest, I get guest, and sometimes we just say, okay, here's a guest, let's do it. We don't really even run it past each other much any longer because we've been doing this for so long. So I don't know who the Mind of God is, so it's a completely new thing to me. But I am aware of Flat Out Hero. But anyways, back to this particular topic in the hangout. And yes, anybody can come in. I'm opening it up. If you want in, let me know. Come on, we got 113 people watching. Not a single person wants to come in to either challenge me or say, okay, Steve, I think I happen to agree with you. Either or, I can take either. Oh, this is the link gives you a 500 error. That's because you're on a phone. It's not connecting properly, Sean. I can try one other thing. I give you a different link. I'll give you the URL, but I don't think this is going to work because I have to email it to you for it to work. So if you give me your email, I'll send it to you because it doesn't work through Facebook most of the time, I think. So try that link. If that doesn't work, email me at this and I'll send you the email. I'll send you the link that way because a lot of times the link does not work through Facebook, I've noticed. And then we'll try to get Sean in here. By the way, do you guys like that play on words, breaking beliefs, like Breaking Bad? I might start a series like that, Breaking Belief. It kind of sounds like a street epistemology kind of thing, right? Breaking Belief. So if Anthony Magnabosco is watching this, if you steal that, I will find you. Now you can steal it. Just give me credit for it. That's all. Oh, not you, Kage. Well, no, if you wanted to, you can come in. Everybody has my email right now. Christy says, Sorta, Steve, you've helped me expand parts of my mind and regular education that hasn't been able to thus far. I appreciate the heck out of you and your desire to help the world you're in. Hashtag Steven. Oh my God. See, this is so sweet. I don't know how to handle that kind of stuff. It's just too sugary for me. I'm going to go into diabetic shock. John says, what benefit is there to philosophy that doesn't, if it doesn't prove anything empirically? Okay, well, if you didn't have philosophy, you wouldn't have science, because science adheres to methodological naturalism. Methodological naturalism is a philosophy of science. So without science, without philosophy, science is useless. Oh, what about bioethics? Oh, without bioethics, doctors can do whatever they want. So philosophy is critically important to numerous different things. Matter of fact, philosophy is the bedrock from which all other things flow, basically. When you're dealing with existence, philosophy. When you're dealing with ethical and moral considerations, philosophy. When you're dealing with knowledge, philosophy. You can't have knowledge without philosophy. Knowledge is defined in philosophy. You can't have truth. You can't have facts. All these terms are defined in meta epistemology, which is, by the way, philosophy. Now, I'm not Christy's type, if you know what I mean. So that's why I can flirt with Christy and I don't feel bad or at all, because she knows it's not serious. Because like there's no chance in hell of me ever ending up with somebody like Christy. Is one of the complete hypotheticals that I'm willing to entertain, but no, it's ontologically impossible. So, um, oh, I see. I like this one. See, dude spewed. This is what I'm talking about. I like this. Steve, you're pretty average. You generally make videos that are of acceptable quality. I mildly enjoy them. Thank you. Thank you. I can handle that. That's actually awesome. I'm still not getting any emails, so I'm gonna hold off as long as I can here to try to get you in here. Yeah, let's all have a good cry together. That's all we need, right? I think non sequitur entertains flat Earth too much. Metal slugs. That might be true, but you know what? They're the most popular videos we got. Not going to front. People enjoy watching them. They're lucrative, but I enjoy them. But yeah, they're the most popular ones we have. So we have an audience that we have to maintain. We have an audience that we have to put on a show for. We wouldn't have a show if we didn't have the audience we had. So if they like flat Earth, well, we're going to try to give them flat Earth. Now, granted, Kyle and I do have a rule. We do a lot of this for ourselves more than other people. So Eso says, "Get in there." It's turning to Steve jerking to himself. Yes, Eso, I agree with you. Please, somebody, come on in. I don't like doing these long monologues. 20 minutes should be the longest anybody should ever like have a hangout with themselves only. Maybe an hour at most. Let's see here. Christy says, Steve and I can get girls together. Oh yeah. Oh, Christy, you would make the bomb wingman. Please, if there's any hope for me to ever get laid again, Christy needs to fly down and be my wingman. Sure. But she's not the only one. I'm cheating on Christy a little bit. I have some other ones that are just as wingable, I guess the word is. I happen to adore Sweet Heathen. She'd make an incredible wingman. Plus, I happen to like her a lot in other ways. I think who else make a good wingman? Oh my God, Brittany would make a hell of a wingman. Brittany Simon. And I already been out with her twice. We had sushi the other day. We had a great time, and I was thinking, yeah, I got to take her to a bar, man. She could help me pick up chicks left and right. Zubalon says, I told atheism was a belief. They won't listen to me, Steve. Well, they're closed-minded. Then what are you going to do? There are certain people that are just so indoctrinated that they're not going to be willing to even listen to anything. And the fact is, if you go read a peer review paper, 99.9% of the time, they're going to define atheism as a belief. Unless you read like The Presumption of Atheism by Flew in 1972, he argues against it. Steve Bullivant, he argues against it in 2017 in the Oxford Handbook of Atheism, and George Smith, 1974, he argues against it. But other than that, those are only three things I can really think of off the top of my head. That's pretty slim compared to all the other papers that I've read and things that I've read that define atheism in terms of belief of there is no God. Kage Paragon says, and I always say Kage. I don't know if it's Gage or Kage. I say Kage. Is this $7? Thank you, dude. Is this enough for you to email me first? I don't have your email. Yeah, of course. Let's see here. Let me email you first. And dude, I do it for free, dude. Come on. anybody. You don't have to give me a super chat to get in, or even be a Patreon, or even be a chat moderator. Come on. I'm not one of those people. If you want to come in, then you need to be a Patreon. No, I try to get anybody in. That's just weird to me that people do that. You are Patreon in yours, I think. We're a chat moderator for sure. So whatever. I try that link. I just sent it to you right now. Oops. There you go. By the way, I already had your email on file. Huh. Okay, now go back to the chat here. John, would morality exist without philosophy? Not structured morality. I mean, that's moral ontology. If morals exist independent of humans, that's moral ontology. So again, you'd even ask the question, you're talking about philosophy. One, you're talking about the word morality, which is defined philosophically. You're talking about existence, which is defined philosophically. So that question you're asking, John, doesn't even make sense unless you know philosophy. You know, I don't think people really think about these things, right? Copernicus says, speaking of Simon Dan destroying Orphan Red, did you ever dare risk your sanity debating her? Orphan Red has me blocked. She will not come on the Non Sequitur show. I destroyed her in a video long ago called Orphan Red, Blue Skies and Orphan Red, where I explained to her the difference between scintillation and luminescence. She doesn't have an understanding of physics, and I think she's a Poe. I don't think she actually believes the Earth is flat. I'm not convinced she thinks the Earth is flat. I think she's doing it for the lulz and for the money. So, but I would take Orphan Red on any day of the week. But she knows she can't go against me. She absolutely knows that she could not go against me or Reds. She doesn't. Like I said, I don't think she even believes any of this stuff, and her understanding of the topics are abysmal. There you go. Okay, Brian. For the after show for non-sec. If we have an after show for non-sec, I don't know if we will, but if you want to come into this one and talk, there's a link. Yeah, I don't know if I'm doing an after show for non-sec. Christy says, let's see here. I just lost it. People do that because they want to make sure they're not challenged while they're on a live stream. Well, I mean, look, I get that a lot of people don't want to do live streams. I do understand that. So if I ask somebody to go live and they don't want to, 9 times out of 10, I will accept that. No problem. But when somebody, like I have this one guy, his name's Tornado Shark, and he's left comments on other videos saying that I'm wrong. And yet his argumentation is so flawed that he doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. And I said, look, if you want to think that I'm wrong, great. But if you want to understand why I'm not, come into our hangout. You know, we can go on Cyrus's channel because this was one of Cyrus's videos. And he won't do it. He's just like, oh, you're just closed-minded, Steve. And I'm like, let me explain something to you. If I'm willing to go into a hangout with you to discuss the topic, clearly I'm not closed-minded, right? That's just the antithesis of being closed-minded. Now, granted, there are some people that I will not go into hangouts with. I'm not obligated to, right? I won't just say to everybody, oh yeah, I'm willing to have a conversation with you. There's certain people I just won't. So, but if somebody says I'm wrong and I'm offering them, okay, let's go into a hangout and talk about it, then how can I be closed-minded? It makes no sense. Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Are you actually off work today?
Yeah. You wouldn't believe it, but yes, I'm actually home.
Oh, Christy says only laying Patreons on streams. Oh, I get you. Yeah, no, I've always been anybody can come on my stream unless I don't like them or have no reason to talk to them, things like that. But by the way, I do have Patreon, and people have been very generous in their Patreon. My Patreon is now about $200 for this channel, and that is amazing to me. It may not sound like a lot to you guys, but this is my only job, and I haven't made a dime off Non Sequitur yet.
That's sad.
All that money is sitting, waiting for us to figure out all the expenses we've had, because I've had to invest several $100s, and he's had to invest several $100s, and we're going to wait till the end of the year, and then we'll have some money. But as of right now, I'm literally living just off this channel. So $200 in Patreon to me is incredible. So a lot of people think that, oh, well, you know, it's not a lot of money because whatever. I'm like, yeah, you're right. To other people, it's not. To me, I'm appreciative every dime I get. I'm not one of those people that go, oh, such and such Patreon for $1. What a cheapskate. I'm like, fuck, I got another Patreon for $1. Awesome. Fuck, I'm happy because it all adds up. I have a lot of Patreons for $1, and that's why I have.
Certainly.
Yeah. See me after tax return, Steve. What I find unbelievable is you got these flat Earth channels making thousands of dollars.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, I don't get it. I really don't get it. And then you've got people like you and James Downard struggling to make ends meet, and they get a pittance, and they are actually doing credible work.
We suck at we know this. We suck at marketing when it comes to our Patreons. James is well aware of this, right? People kid him for this, and I don't push it as much either, right? I don't go on every stream like, hey, gotta pay me some money here. Oh, hey, you want to watch my stuff? Well, come on in, pay me some money here. Oh, you haven't paid me some money in a while. Not my shtick at all. Like literally, I'm the opposite. So everybody who does Patreon, because I get people every so often that I don't know who they are. They'll Patreon and they leave me a nice message saying, hey, Steve, you don't know who I am, but I've watched your stuff forever, and I'm just a huge fan of what you talk about. And even though if we just have hangouts just like this, they love listening. I don't have a high production value channel. Occasionally I'll do things like DEFCON 1 Science. Occasionally, I'll do streams and rum and coke nights and I'll have guests come on, but it's nowhere near the level of what would be considered production value, like the Non Sequitur show, right? That takes a lot of stuff to do. There's a lot of moving parts with that.
Yeah. You guys have really taken Non Sequitur show to the next level. I mean, it's looking sharp.
Yeah. You're the right brother.
I appreciate that.
Not sec.
Well, we had a goal, and that goal was to be one of the most popular channels. By the way, your vaping is going to kill people. I know people are going to get triggered by that.
Oh,
I know my audience.
We're both wearing caddy hats, so we're pretty cool right now.
We got the nice hats.
Yeah, tip it. There you go.
Hell yeah.
What are the odds?
I don't know, dude.
Cool people wear those things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And we need to talk about the new religion of agnosticism later after the show.
Sure. But yeah, like I said, our goal when we first started, we had high aspirations, right? We said we wanted to be one of the most popular channels, and a lot of people poo-pooed us, going, "Oh, look at Steve, he thinks he can be popular." And one of my dearest friends, Jade, had said, the best revenge is success, and I agreed with her, and I said, you know what, we're gonna make this. So, we made it something popular. Because I gotta tell you, it is motivational when people think that you can't do something.
You prove me wrong once again.
I think we're one of the newest shows to come out in quite some time with this kind of level of popularity. I mean, there's been other shows that have been like the Lion Ghost show. There was a Magic Sandwich show. They never reached this kind of status. The only one that did was Donkey Peasants, and we've now been on their show.
So for this new Non Sequitur show, you're interviewing a flat earther, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a flat out hero versus the Mind of God.
Flat out hero. I've heard of him.
Yeah, I know who he is, but I don't know the Mind of God.
Huh. What will you be drinking?
You don't know the Mind of God?
I might have wine tonight. I don't know. Maybe. I don't usually drink during the Non Sequitur shows. I had a course the other night when Arn was drinking because I didn't want to drink alone. And God knows I needed it because that was just... Do you know that guy still is emailing Kyle, and that guy is still making videos saying how his argument was so great that we had to kick him?
Whatever. That guy is taking the piss. Screw that guy.
I don't even remember his name at this point. It was so bad.
The guy on Twitter that insists upon himself.
No, the guy that came on to argue against Aaron, and he had no argument whatsoever. And we're like,
okay.
Gonzalez, bro, something, bro.
no, not Bro Sanchez, not that guy.
Bro Sanchez.
No, it wasn't Bro Sanchez.
The
It was
hippie dude with the thing and the stuff.
yeah. What was the guy's name?
I forgot. But
it tells you how bad it was. Jason, was it Jason? Yeah, Jason King. You're right. Thank you guys. The audience remembers shit better than I do. What does that mean?
You have an awesome audience. How about that?
They do. Dude, they know shit they remember like from years ago. Hey Steve, do you remember when you said this? Or hey Steve, that. I'm like, wow, impressive. I haven't had a drunk today. Exactly.
pointing out fallacies is a fallacy, Steve.
That was hilarious. Yeah. That was...
that's a golden nun type of thing right there. As a matter of fact, I submitted that.
Yeah. All I had to say on that was like, no, it's not. Just no.
You said, no, it's not.
No, it's not.
As appropriate. It's like, no, it's not.
Cyrus, do you want in real quick?
Oh yeah, bring him on.
Yeah, he needs a buffer between my dumbass and him.
I was just on his podcast the other day with him and Ocean. Pretty fun.
Oh, Ocean was on his channel?
They have a podcast together.
Cyrus.
Howdy, Cyrus.
Let me show you so people can hear you.
Turn that. There we go. I had my Bluetooth off.
He has a hat too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Issa says your best reaction ever that was the night you had the preacher on that said evolution was racist. Yeah.
I'm only going to be in here for a few minutes. I'm here for the amount of time it takes for me to get home.
How long is that?
Probably only like 5 minutes, maybe at tops.
Well, be careful, buddy.
Justin says, I loved how Jason kept trying to bring you into philosophy because he couldn't explain his argument. Yeah, well, I was giving him the principle of charity. If you didn't notice, I was trying to at least make something of his argument the best possible light. I mean, something like kind of what Christopher Hansen did with Mr. Intelligent Design. But I eventually had to realize there's just no way I could make anything cogent out of this. There's no way. There's just nothing there.
It was sad listening to him try to get to his point, because when he did his argument to Aaron, he could have probably salvaged things if he had just concisely said his argument instead of waiting like 30 seconds between each sentence and just letting dead air sit there while he thought about the next part. Like, come to your argument with notes, recite the notes if need be, and then you'll notice that things go so much smoother.
Yeah, well, he actually said we didn't give him any time. And we're like, okay.
No, we gave you all the time. Aaron gave you the time.
Yeah, wasn't he drunk?
He says he wasn't.
He says he wasn't, but I do not believe that.
No.
I'm not sure about Jason King myself.
I don't know what to make of him. All I know is that a couple people were saying, well, wait till the next day, he'll sober up, he'll watch the video and go, oh yeah, I made an ass of myself. No, that did not happen.
Oh, is he still making videos?
Oh yes. So I have to conclude either A, he's still wasted, or B, he's just
he just wants to die. He just wants to die on his hill. Then that's all.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about Jason King myself, in all honesty. When I was in school, we had events like speech and debate. One of them was Lincoln Douglas. Fun stuff. He had a structure, and I honestly don't understand why he couldn't come to a point with speech.
Because he just didn't have one. I mean, I kind of knew he was trying to go. He was talking about Aristotelian four causes, but that doesn't get him to an argument.
No, it's literally just explaining a set of circumstances. That's all it really boils down to. And explaining a set of circumstances, all it does is it explains that those circumstances exist and they are where we find ourselves, but it doesn't get you to any conclusion. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, if I say something like, look, your parents had sex causing you to be born or something, right? But
my parents having sex does not always entail that I will be born. It doesn't entail that anyone will be born.
Yeah, it's really,
just can.
It's kind of a simple example, but he's trying to say, well, the universe has a cause. Okay, well, sure. If you want to talk about
So he's basically just going Aquinas's third way without an actual like deity to point to, is what he's doing.
yeah, it's a combination between the argument from motion and Aristotelian forms, in a way, because he's saying that the universe has a cause. Okay, yeah, we all kind of understand that the universe could have came from a metastable false vacuum and quantum foam, right? A quantum bubble expanding, right? Most of us have looked at that paper. It's well beyond my ability to actually read the paper, but I'm aware of it. But that, okay, sure, that's a causation mechanism by which it could have formed, but what does that get you? I don't know what his argument is then at that point. But I also argue that things don't have to have a cause. The universe existing could just be a brute fact.
True. I mean, considering when you're trying to argue from causation, you eventually hit a point of regression where you can't go any further without pointing to a thing you can't actually describe. And you can use that to say, oh well, it must be a deity, but then you beg the questions of that deity.
Yeah,
so
you're just giving it a metaphysical grounding and saying, oh, here, there's something by necessity by which all other contingency flows. Okay, I'm probably going to try to agree with that, because, I mean, I'm not against an infinite regress. You know, that's the other possibility.
At that point, you're just positing G, right? Like you're just positing the philo god at that point.
Well, to me, you're just positing an unknown, right? Even if I just say there's if I posit there's a metaphysical necessity from which everything's grounded, okay, sure. What is it? Oh, I have no idea. Okay, well, that doesn't really tell me much. It's not an explanation by doing that.
Well, that's why I said that if you try to use that principle, you almost always end up just begging the question in the end, because you get to a point where you stop having the ability to explain things and you just have to ask questions.
Right. Ronnie says.
No, go ahead.
Just super chat real quick. Ronnie says $2. Can't get enough of flat Earth dumpster fires. See, I'm telling you, people like them. I don't know why. All I do is laugh. You got to remember my reactions 99% of the time are pretty legit, except for, I do go a little overboard on some of the flatter stuff when I just like, okay, I'm fucking done. I'm just done. But when I'm laughing, I'm seriously laughing. It's just a riot.
Yeah, I see you laughing.
But somebody just said there's no such thing as a brute fact. Don't say that, because then my whole philosophy is screwed, because I'm a foundationalist. I wouldn't have a theory of justification if it wasn't for a brute fact.
With that said, I am home, so I will see you guys later.
All right, thank you, buddy.
Happy homecoming.
Yeah, I'm going to have some blogs on that too, on justifications, like foundationalism versus coherentism and things of that nature. I'm just not well read up on that, so I haven't dived into that yet. I've got a few other blogs I want to do next. I'm going to be talking about the strong case and the weak case of knowledge being related to belief. I think that's kind of interesting. But anything you guys want to have a blog on? I mean, I have to probably look into it, but people have been reading my blogs. I've been told quite ubiquitously that the way I explain things, people are understanding. So that's the best compliment I can get.
I read that one article. It was like, what, 2 pages? And I forgot what something to do with arguments. And in fact, I think you quizzed me on it.
Well, I went on how to have arguments, but that wasn't 2 pages.
Yeah.
No idea of sacred.
No, it was a while ago. So it was probably about a month ago. It was pretty easy read. It was.
I tried to make him read. Now, the one I did today or last night is not an easy read.
Yeah, I'll have to read that one.
Yeah.
What was it about?
Can a person believe and not believe something at the same time?
I feel it's a trick question.
Well,
I want to say no.
I'm going from the principle. I'm not holding to the principle of rationality, right? One of the things when you go into these discussions, we have something called principle of rationalism, a principle of rationalism, where you want to be rational in conversation. So if you don't care about rationalism, you don't care about being something that to be incoherent or irrational, then you can have different things happen, right? So I can hold conflicting beliefs, but I'm in a state of irrationalism, right? I can hold 2 positions that are opposite of each other, and it's not logically impossible, right? I may not even know that I'm holding 2 diametrically opposite positions, right? You don't always are aware of your knowledge. So, when you start applying things like, okay, in a sense where a person does have conflicting views, I made an argument that they kind of do believe and not believe at the same time. Now, again, it's a weak case argument, and it really just distills down to what Tyler said. People have conflicting positions in their mind, and that's kind of true. But the fact that Ozzy thought it was interesting to me is great, right? I'm waiting for that one time where somebody just says, "Yeah, goddamn, Steve, you just screwed the pooch on that blog." Then, then I'll like, okay, let me get rid of that one and start something else.
Well, you usually submit before you make a blog post, you pretty much get it checked out by their.
I try. What I do is I post it on the GDC, right? And you know how
Okay.
vile and vicious those guys are, right?
Yo.
Yeah, the GDC don't mess around. So if they're going to find errors, it's going to be the Great Debate community that finds it. And so I generally try to run them past my friends on the GDC first, and then I'll post it on Facebook and something like that. But not always, but most of the time. Because I'm telling you, if people are going to dissect an argument, they'll dissect it on the Great Debate community in nuance.
Now, are they going to make the transition from G Plus to your Facebook?
We're slowly going to my Facebook, a Facebook page, the Great Debate Community Facebook page, and I'm also looking into MeWe. So we'll see. It just doesn't have the form I like. I like the Great Debate Community forum. I like how it's structured in the communities. Because you can see the post and you can respond to the post you want. MeWe is all linear like Facebook, and I'm not a huge fan of that. Although you might be able to change that in a grid thing. Like in Facebook, there's a grid option, I think. Isn't there? I don't use it, but I thought there was a grid option now. They may have added recently, not too long ago.
I'm not sure.
Not a big fan of Facebook.
Yeah. No.
Let's see here. People in the live chat. Yes, I love Mel too. Scientist Mel is awesome.
Oh yeah.
Steve says, does he have an opinion on Dr. Claude Aubers? Since I don't know who that is, I can't say. Is that the guy from Africa? Wait, I think I might know this guy. Wait, I'll look him up.
Bee's knees. That's not a.
He's
that's
a
a term
Planet
I haven't heard in a while.
Planet X guy. Okay.
Bee's Knees. Misha Griffith and Bill Ludlow. Those are the Bee's Knees. Both of them, in fact. As a matter of fact, I work in a grocery store, and you know what a weird name is for food? Large elbows. You want to go?
Okay.
You want to have? What do you want for dinner? Large elbows? Large elbows? Hell yeah! No.
Okay.
No. Nobody wants large elbows. That's stupid. Why?
Yeah, I like him. I like the fact that we get other people a leg up, like Dr. Griffith and Bill Ludlow. Right? I mean, nobody knew who they were until they came on our channels. I mean, Bill Ludlow, God bless him, but he wasn't known. Nobody knew who he was until he argued. I moderated that debate with him and Ken Hovind. That put him on the map because he did such an amazing job. Right? He did such a brilliant job. I only found 2 errors in his presentation, which he's already corrected. And he was fully acknowledged them. He's like, yeah, I fucked up. And I was like, okay, great. I mean, like, hey, this is a guy that's not going to sit there and argue with you, because I didn't know Bill at the time very well. And I was like, I was afraid to even kind of point it out to him, but yeah, he's brilliant. He's freaking brilliant. I love the guy. Demon says, like, Steve actually listens and acknowledges when he's wrong about something. Right? Yeah, exactly. No, it's never been happening. Come on.
What about?
I've never been wrong on anything. Come on.
I
I don't know what it'd be like. That must be a weird feeling to be wrong on something. Brian, how's it feel? Okay.
That's okay. I'm wrong about half of everything, not everything.
When it comes to women, we're all wrong.
Well,
just remember that. You were saying?
Herman Mays. Now, he hasn't debated Kent Hovind yet, has he?
I don't think that he would. I don't think he would waste his time. No, he's interested in debating people like Nathaniel Jeanson, who has an actual PhD and even,
is he the one who just recently wrote that book for AIG?
Yes.
Okay, I know.
Exactly. And he debated Nathaniel Jeanson, and I started to say, but Dr. Jeanson was a little bit. I'm not going to say the word dishonest, but a little bit disingenuous.
Oh no. Yeah,
because
you got it right.
Because
both.
I mean, all he did was say, "Well, you didn't read the book." Well, I know Dr. Mays read the book. I guarantee he read the book because we talked about it prior to it.
Well, you didn't address the points I raised in my book.
He did, though. He really did.
Unbelievable.
He really, honestly did. Are you drinking?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't know. Should
Yes.
you guys tell me. You guys decide for me. We have 120 people watching tonight for the Flat Earth thing. Do I need coffee to make it through, or should I have wine?
I would have wine, but always have a cup of coffee for standby.
Okay.
When did you wake up?
About 3 hours ago.
Oh, well, fuck yeah, go wine, dude.
I don't know. I mean, no, I got up like 10:30 today. I think my alarm went off. So I've been up a while.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're okay. Are you in 8:17 p.m. time?
No, it's 5:17 for me.
Dude,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
you're okay. You're okay.
You're on easy street.
Yeah, no, I'm just concerned. Do I want to drink wine, listen to a flat earther?
How are you as far as alcohol and alcohol tolerance?
Oh, weak as shit. Dude, I can't finish more than one beer. That Coors I had the other night, that's all I can handle. That's my
What was the percentage in that Coors?
5%.
That's it?
Well, it's not so much the percent. It's not so much. It's the quantity. I can't drink a lot of alcohol. My stomach. I have ulcers,
Oh, okay.
and so it doesn't agree with me at all.
Hits your
But I'll have
bloodstream
like a
faster.
couple. Yeah. And so I like Scotch, and I like I like 7 and 7. I like mixed drinks, but I don't really be able to drink a lot. And if I do, I'll have a rum and coke night, and then the next day you just won't hear from me.
Well, I've got some 12-year Bourbini.
Bourbini.
Yeah, I drink like 12-year-old Jameson.
Oh, I'm sorry, Belvini. Belvini Bourbini. Yeah, Belvini. It's 12-year, double oak aged.
Yep. I mean, I don't mind that. That's like a single malt. A good single malt is
Yes.
tasty. Mm-hmm.
I tried Johnny Walker 12-year, and I just couldn't get into it.
By the way, let me show you guys my blog real quick, so you guys at least have a thing where you know what I'm talking about here before I end this, because I do have a show to do here coming up, and we're going to be in links going out in a minute. Didn't realize how fast this was going by. Wow. So let me show my screen real quick. Make sure I get rid of the donkey porn.
The Alex
porn.
and the Alex Jones porn.
Oh, don't miss the Alex Jones porn. Okay, so this is basically, like I said, if you go to greatdebatecommunity.com, this is my tagline: rational conversation in a rational world. I think it's pretty clever. And I actually changed my blog to 3 a.m. philosophy, because it literally is pretty much 3 a.m. when I write this stuff, and some of it may not make sense initially. But this is my blog on this, and it's like I said, it's not an easy read. Just by going through it, you can see that I do use a little bit of logic, and I do use an actual format to make an argument. But it could be wrong. I mean, I could be way off based on it. So I even put on the bottom, it might be something fundamentally wrong here. But the people I've read it that's in their know, they really haven't said anything's wrong with it yet. So if it is, it's not rational. It's not that it's fundamentally wrong from a reasoning point of view. The logic might be off because I may make a mistake, but I checked it pretty well, so I don't think that there is. But who knows? At 3 a.m.
I
right?
I see no flaws in it myself.
Did you read it?
I did.
And were you able to understand the logic?
Very easily.
Okay, because I
Which
thought
I find odd.
But did I not help people? I had somebody on one of the forums. They wrote that, "Oh, Steve, your math is all wrong," and they said, this doesn't make sense because you say V is equal to belief, and then he reads it like this. I'm like, no, V is or. When I say V is belief, and he wrote all this weird stuff. It was nonsensical as can be, and I'm like, no, you didn't read this properly because you're saying V is equal to belief. You don't know what a negation is. Problem. Yeah, there might be a few spelling errors. That might be true. Again, 3 a.m. philosophy. and I don't usually have an editor. I have had editors read some of my other stuff and fix it. But so if you do me a favor and you point out the spelling errors and I can correct them, I do. I have a spell checker though, so they're probably just me typing fast and I type in a different word for what I mean then, because I did run through a spell checker. But here, so send me an email on the spelling errors and I'll fix them tonight. Okay, so anyways, all right, that's Eso has my email, and he also has me on Twitter too. Yeah, either actually do the email or do it on Twitter. So either or, take your pick. So it doesn't really matter. Anyways, yeah, time flies when you're having fun. Thank you for watching again. Yeah, like a little clickbaity because I didn't want to talk about Matt too much because I really don't know his position, and I'm really hoping, like I said, he's not just dismissing what I say. I have a lot of respect for Matt. I do watch the Atheist Experience. I think that when Matt gets demonstrated he made a mistake or is wrong, he fixes it usually. And I'm not saying that he is wrong on this. I think that what he said is correct. I just think it doesn't really apply to what I'm arguing at all. It's kind of a fallacy of a relevant thesis a little bit. So, we'll see. He doesn't like the agnostic's position. I think he thinks it's just a type of atheism, which I highly, highly disagree with. And
you haven't turned him around yet, Steve?
Haven't really talked to him about it.
Did you go on their Discord yet? Did you have that conversation?
Yeah, it was really good. But
did you record it?
Unfortunately, the guy that did it, the recording didn't come out. I'm a little disappointed. I was
looking forward to that.
Yeah, it was really good too. It went off really well. So bummer deal, because I was going to put that on my podcast. So, or our podcast. So
damn it.
I wish you had done a audio recording of it on your end.
Yeah, I probably should start doing this from now on, in case we have those problems, right?
Yep.
But I was on the the Catholic Atheist podcast the other day. You might want to go check that out.
Really? Was this an interview or?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know who if you know who the Canadian atheist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Canadian.
Yeah, the Canadian atheist. Sorry, if you know who the Canadian atheist is. So, but anyways, I am going to wrap this up. Thanks for watching. I got a show to do. Come watch us on the Non Sequitur Show. We're doing Flat Earth tonight with Flat Out Hero and the Mind of God. So yeah, looking for Robert.
Yes, sir.
Can't wait.
Tune into that. That is going to be the bees' knees and the large elbows of the bees.
Go eat some large elbows tonight, people. Large elbows.
It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be there.